January 6th committee is holding another hearing today. It will focus on what they say were Trump's efforts to pressure state officials to overturn the 2020 election. Now, one of the witnesses today is Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who you may remember got a call from Trump in 2020 asking him to, quote, find the votes he needed to win the state. Here's just part of that conversation.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
So what do you think of these allegations against former President Trump? And do you think learning more details about these events will change people's minds about the 2020 election? I'm throwing this question out to our viewers because we always want to hear from you. Tori, what do you feel?
We are seeing that movement is happening, and the people who are sort of in between, it's gone from like 40 to about 53% that think Trump did conspire to create this riot. 60% of people are now saying the January 6th committee is doing a good job. That's a bump up. So they are doing the right thing. What's interesting to me is when he says find the votes. You don't find votes in a democracy. You don't tape a president. So Brad Raffensperger, who was the Georgia Secretary of State, he decided to tape and audio check that phone call. Why? Because he knows that the president might say something illegal. You don't tape random phone calls. All that they're doing is taking nice and slow, easy going. The idea to hire that ABC producer, excellent. It feels like we're watching a very understandable, digestible explanation of a conspiracy. I'm getting more and more convinced. Having him there in person is getting me more and more convinced. It feels like, how do you ignore the fact that he conspired to do this? Find the votes.
I had a question that I was just thinking while you were talking. When did he ask for the votes? And I'm just taking the other side. I'm not trying to prove a point.
Right.
But was this phone call taped after the votes were in, or was this leading up to the election saying, hey, there's a week left to votes, we need to find 1,200?
Votes were in, and in order for him to get the majority, he would have needed those 12,000 or 11,000
So the votes are already in.
Correct.
So
and
that's why it's...
find me the votes is a way of saying, that's a get me the votes in a way that's illegal.
He wasn't saying, I think they're on the floor somewhere.
That's it. That's
like
it.
He was saying.
Well, I think the timeline's important because I don't know why. I didn't think about that.
You asked that question. I was like, wait a second. Yeah, so I'm glad you clarified that. You know, there's two different things that I'm wrestling with in my head to unpack. One is that it's like, what are we going to do as a group of people in terms of moving forward?
There is no group of people. Let's be real. There's two sides, no matter what.
There's two sides, but it's one country. We're all here together. So
I wish it was that way.
It would be nice. But moving forward, are we going to punish these people by putting them in jail? Is there going to be punitive damages? Are we going to make an example out of these people, like this is what happens? Because in other countries, the fact that these people might go to jail would be best case scenario. Let's be honest. So if we do nothing, we're also making a big statement that that's okay moving forward. So we are going to risk ostracizing a lot of people if we do put people in jail. But if we don't, Sammy, where's that going to put us? Then if you don't do anything.
There needs to be a precedent. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. I really don't. I know people don't believe me when I say that. I want people to be held accountable. I'm sick of our politicians across the board not being held accountable. They serve a different type of rule than we all do, and that to me is a huge injustice.
You're exactly right.
They work for us, but they don't. They work for themselves. But I really want to get this in because I think it's highly important. Also, speaking of the January 6th committee, one of the Republican members of the committee, Representative Adam Kinzinger, was on ABC this week, and he revealed a threatening letter that was sent to his wife at their home. This goes to what we were just talking about, right? Like these two dire sides. So this comes after he said that Trump should be criminally prosecuted. Take a look at what he had to say.
This threat that came in, it was mailed to my house. We got it a couple days ago, and it threatens to execute me as well as my wife and 5-month-old child. I've never seen or had anything like that. It was sent from the local area. There is violence in the future, I'm going to tell you. And until we get a grip on telling people the truth, we can't expect any differently.
So, Tori, Representative Kinzinger also posted the letter online, and it says, quote, that pimp you married not only broke his oath, he sold his soul. Although it will take time, he will be executed. You and Christian will be joining Adam in hell, too. Tori, is violence taking over politics?
Yeah. And I think I'm going to just straight up say the former guy who I called Trump really allowed violence to become a currency. It was helpful to him to have a riot, to have a mob. January 6th, to me, came from that incitement. And ever since that, the doors are open for bad behavior on planes, bad behavior for customer service, bad behavior on that. That's fascism. We don't execute people for votes. We don't do that. Kinzinger is a model of a compromise. He's a moderate, right? He's not going to run next year because I'm not saying why he isn't said why.
So then you can say that it worked. And this is what happens, Tori, when you allow things to happen as a society. We're talking about January 6th, but like let's not be prisoners of the moment here. When we start talking about Charlottesville,
right?
The white nationalists there that killed Heather Heyer and in an act of terrorism, driving that car down the street, they are the armed wing, de facto wing of what the rhetoric is coming out. This last weekend, when there were 31 people that were caught in a U-Haul truck going to affect a pride parade, that is because of the rhetoric directed towards gay and trans
organization
people.
as
when you start talking about January 6th, when you start talking about them trying to kidnap a governor, these are all steps taken out by these groups that are supposedly fringe, but these were groups that were being walked around the White House. These are groups that are now, their rhetoric about the great replacement theory is now on national television. That used to be a fringe theory on websites. They're talking about this daily now.
But it doesn't represent all Republicans. You're right, but
I'm not saying, but the talking points now have a fist behind them.
Yes.
Because you know, if you say something about trans, gays, election stolen, whatever, that Saturday, 50 guys are going to show up with Humvees and enough weapons to take over a small village.
See, I don't want to believe that. You have a point, and I want to be right about this, just for myself,
I don't want to believe
my
either,
children, right? And I think these are very fringe, very extreme, and we know about all of them now because of the internet. So every single time someone sends a letter like this, the whole country, 330 million people know about it because of the internet, right? In the past, we didn't know about it, right? No one's going to put that in the paper. I want to believe that the country's good, right? I want to say 80% of the country, Democrats or Republicans, are good. It's these fringe people on the outside. That's all that gets coverage. The media, social media, that's the only thing that gets covered.
It's effective. Like Kinzinger is leaving. I don't know why.
But we have to be able to speak our voice, right? Whether it's a good take on something, Tori, or a bad take. Someone out there is going to agree with me or they're going to agree with you. It doesn't mean I should get a letter sent to my family. My family has nothing to do with what I do with my kids.
With you.
You shouldn't be attacking Supreme Court justices. Those people should be put in jail. You shouldn't be attacking our White House. Those people should be put in jail. We have to get it right. Okay, so everyone's like, oh, this is this, that. Everyone needs to go to trial. We need to start getting it right. We're focused more on taking people out of jail than putting them in. We're more focused about people's feelings than we are about actual lives. If you hurt someone's feelings, you could lose your job. If I beat up someone, everyone's like, well, at least you didn't use a slur and we can't cancel you. It's just so backwards and bananas. And 80% of the people, I think, are tired of it. They're tired of it. And we'll see when comes election time, the midterm elections. But I feel like the country's just over the oversensitiveness.
I hope you're right.
I hope you are too. I think the tricky thing is that fine line between not being complacent and then also not shining too much of a light on some of the extremist situations.
Which are becoming more normalized. You know?
Right. It's tricky because you want to handle it. You want to call it out. But at the same time, you don't want it to further divide us.
Right. But then if I say something calling it out, you're a Trumper, you're a racist, you're a homophobe. It's all these labels, which is why I hate cancel culture, because it stops the conversation. We need to get back into having a conversation.
Yes. Whether it's somebody having a gun or somebody saying, I know where you live, it's a way to stop the conversation.
Yeah, well said.